Hello, everyone. We're back from the, I guess, voyage to through the desert. Is it a voyage or is that escapades?
Journey.
Journey. There you go. That's a good word for it. And
Although we're not talking about the game Journey, which is about wandering through a desert. We're talking about my personal favorite part of the Mega Man franchise, the Zero games.
we'll be going through Mega Man 0, 1 through 4, which is surprisingly neat and compact, much like the consoles it was on.
Yes, delightful little Game Boy Advance titles. One of the many reasons why I adore this part of the timeline so much is not just it stars Zero, my favorite Mega Man character, is that it is done. It's 4 games, no continuation. It is a complete story. And Capcom, even when they were throwing out a Mega Man game every year, when 4 was done, 0 was done. They never went back to that well.
No, they made references to it, which...
Yeah, they then continued the series hundreds of years later, but none of the characters really return, except for 1 or 2, but that's not really the same thing as a directly continuing this series.
No,
It is... It does have one of the problems both of us have with the classic era, which is nebulous time after the previous one, and they give you vague details. But unfortunately, the vague details end up being maddening because
we get stuff like this.
When? Yes. Thank you for attempting a timeline, Mega Man creators. I believe this is from one of the compilation books.
I think so as well. Okay, let's start off at the start of this.
Yes, the Zero franchise takes place after the X series is done.
So
when that happens,
the Maverick Wars have to be over.
Yes, the Maverick Wars. See, the way this timeline works is it kind of forgets to talk about the end of the Maverick Wars, because the games say, and thus the Cyber Elves were created, and they ended the Maverick Wars. All was happy until they went evil and started their own war. But this timeline just says Maverick War begins. And according to this timeline, the Maverick Wars have never ended.
Yeah, this is going to be one that...
Yeah, we're off and off with this timeline.
Now, see, I agree that the first 4 points make general sense, and the last 4 points are okay. The middle
is just kind of...
Middle is just like someone just took a dartboard and just threw them wherever.
See, I agree. Starting with the Maverick Wars makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Where to the end? Anyway, so sometime after the war, Zero shrugs his shoulders and goes to have a nap.
So,
to cleanse himself of the virus.
If I might interject for just a minute. If anybody's played X6, which I know M has.
Yeah. It's my favorite X series.
We know Zero went into stasis to purge himself of the virus.
Because when the Zero series came out, it came out directly after X6, and they had no plans for an X7 and during the middle of the production of the Zero series, X7 came out, making a lot of people go, wait, what about the ending of X6, which led to the X0 games, but now there's this Axel guy? When is...
Now, the most common scenario a lot of people have gone with is that X6 is the definitive end of the X series. It just came out early, and that Axel was somewhere else during this fight. So that's how a lot of people.
The consensus Capcom has said the ending of X6, where Zero goes to sleep, does indeed still happen. It just comes after Mega Man X8. We just decided to show it to you in Mega Man X6.
Whatever, Capcom.
Yeah. Anyway, so Zero goes to sleep after the war because they figured out by that point the original Maverick virus came from him, so they think putting him in this special stasis pod will cleanse him of the virus.
Okay,
even though
Capcom.
they have something called the Mother Elf, which cleanses viral Oh wait, no, she's turned into the Dark Elf, and thus begins the Elf Wars, which is the games say when she turned evil, that's the start of the Elf Wars, but this timeline decides no, those are 2 separate things.
So the only thing I could think of, did they ever specifically say what turned the Mother Elf into the Dark Elf?
Dr. Wheel takes credit for it.
Okay, that's nice. That's not the question I asked, Capcom.
Yeah. And with the character we're going to talk about, Dr. Wheel, in a bit, that could either be 100% true, or he's pulling something of his ass just to make himself appear more mysterious and powerful. Either one fits his character to a fucking T.
Because to be fair, the cyber elves themselves are a bit of a
Deus Ex Machina.
yeah. Because as far as I remember, I'm not the biggest fan of the Zero series. I like the game, but I just had issues using a Game Boy at the time to play these things for long periods of time because I have really huge hands and did not hold it comfortably. But that was a
I
me
love
thing.
this game so much. When the original DS came out and it cut into my hands, I still played this game for hours on end. So,
But again, I
yeah,
admit
I
that
was
is
willing to go through the
yeah, that is a me thing. That is nothing to do with the game itself. I think the game itself was fine. I was more of an X fan with the long range fighting, but slashing things out with the saber is always cool. I will not deny that. But
yeah,
then we get to
our
Zero
next
awakens in a new body, and together with X ends the Elf Wars. Okay, it had to end somewhere.
Yeah. Then Zero goes back to sleep in a different forgotten laboratory.
Wait,
Okay.
why?
Then X founds this place called Neo Arcadia, and then immediately he goes missing.
Yeah, see, the problem with this timeline is that it doesn't specify how long in between anything is, nor do we know why Zero went into stasis a second time.
And the reason why X went missing is that he shut himself down to be a prison for the Dark Elf, which means she was still around after the wars, despite the fact that she is the reason the Elf Wars happened.
So the only thing
What we just said, the war ends, so
like I was talking about, the only thing that makes sense to me is that they had a way to contain the Mother Elf. That failed, shit got real, and X did an emergency sealing on her. And to be fair, no one else wanted to risk her getting out of X's body.
Which, it's good storytelling, but if that's what happened, they did a terrible job of telling us that.
Yeah.
But anyway, after X, the leader of Neo Arcadia, goes missing, the city falls into disrepair, so I believe, she's not even 10 years old yet, genius by the name of Dr. CL creates a near perfect clone of X, something that hundreds of other scientists before her could not do. And this copy X is 99.99% exactly X. Only his reactions are just the reason why we found out that Dr. Light made X sleep for 100 years to learn empathy.
There was
He's
things
too logical.
there's two things Copy X was missing when he was created that Seal could not replicate at the time. One was all of X's experiences as a person and a Riploid hunt or a Maverick hunter. She like having a copy and experiencing it are always going to be two different things. I don't care what anybody says. The other thing, as M said, was the 100 years in stasis. Whether or not it was supposed to, the 30 years would have been enough. X was still in that capsule for 100 years.
Essentially, he had 100 years of bug testing. So when Neo Arcadia happens to have an energy crisis, his response is, well, Reploids are the most energy inefficient thing in our city. Anyone who is even slightly doing something illegal, terminate them. Like, how slightly illegal? Jaywalking, terminate them. Well, okay.
Yeah,
this
CL will show no signs of corruption anytime soon.
CL, being massively upset by this, creates a resistance where she smuggles out as many Reploids as she can, regardless of how fuel efficient or how... Basically, if you're innocent but going to be terminated, CL smuggles you out of the city. The problem is she's prioritizing rescuing people, and none of them are really fighters. So she goes on search for the legendary warrior Zero. And the first game starts with her waking Zero, who doesn't even know if he is Zero.
Yeah, first look here, like I don't hate the design. I like, despite what I may say, I don't hate these overall designs for any of the Reploids.
It grew on me. At first, I also did not like it, but they were going for a sleeker, faster, and less complicated sprite for the GBA, and it really does feel like this guy is a lot faster than Zero.
Also, apologize for going on forward if some of these images come off center. I have no idea why it's doing that, and I can't fix it at the moment.
Technical issues on this podcast?
Good lord. But let's
Yep.
just for a moment. This is what Zero. I just like how they're standing back to back if they were here for a moment. But
It took me a while to find proper images where they're both holding their sabers with their dominant hand. For some reason, in the last 10 years, it feels like everyone keeps drawing Zero as a right-hander, but he's primarily left-handed, ambidextrous.
yeah, I always assumed his buzz was on his right arm because that's where I found most of the art for him.
Well, his saber handle is on his left shoulder, and sure, you can draw it using your right arm, but that does not feel comfortable.
But this was Zero's original design.
Well, somewhat. He has more spiky shoulders in this one. Originally, he had rounded shoulders.
Well,
but
I'm just saying this is the Zero that we all know
this
at
is
this point.
this is yeah. This is the command mission art for Zero, which was pretty close to what we had recently.
Mhm.
I just thought this was a very crisp, good image to use.
And then we went to this. Now, at one point,
It improves on the original design in two areas for me.
Mm-hmm.
The weird booblets are gone. I've never liked them on Zero's design. That's my only problem with his X design.
Fair.
And this looks a lot better. However, first, I just never really cared much for the crotch diaper thing. It for some reason it looks weirder to me than the actual larger one he had in the X games.
You know what I generally like about the Zero Series version? I like the helmet.
But yeah, the helmet, however, is perfection. It is my favorite Mega Man helmet and the entire franchise.
Like, this is nice.
It's good. It's
Like,
crisp.
I have
I
no
like
problem
it.
with It gives
It's a
it
good color combination.
like, I wouldn't say demonic, but very fierce looking. Because Zero is a warrior.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me like some sort of Kabuto helmets. Very angular, designed to
Yeah, now that you
intimidate.
mention it, I can see it. Yeah. But there's
Whereas his Zero design, it feels faster to me.
yeah, a lot of it was streamlined. And I appreciate that. Now it was
Yeah.
said at the first time, I believe this was still at the point of 01, that this is
Yes,
what they were supposed to look like.
Well, no, that's not what they're supposed to look like. It's just we changed art styles, but the universe hasn't acknowledged the art style change. Only you, as a human player outside, has noticed. To them, they've always looked like this. Ooh, retcons of meta proportions. So, to them, it has been like, no, nothing. I always look like this. And if you look at files in game, they would show he always looked like that. The new explanation Capcom has given, which you actually get to see in games, if you
Mhm.
compare X's design in X1 to X's design in X8, X is stockier, thinner, but no less strong. It's slowly technology has been advancing because we don't know how long the Maverick Wars lasted. They could have lasted anywhere from 10 years to 200 years. And X and Zero would keep incorporating current technology into their bodies, either naturally or Zero would walk by going, hey, a new Buster rifle. And I'll just pop my arm off and plug this one instead. So slowly they would become thinner and thinner.
Yes,
So it's
technology
a combination
improves,
of,
and to keep up with it, they would improve themselves. I have no problem with
Well,
this.
it's just never stated in game.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where you notice it from a medics from playing the entire series.
Now,
But like we said, the X8 came out pretty much at the end of the Zero franchise, so
now
that felt more like a, hey, people complain, how about we demonstrate this?
yeah. Now I understand that to like Seal and the others, Rebels would have always looked like this in at that current timeline. I am not arguing that.
Yeah.
But Zero was also asleep for God knows how long in stasis, so technically he wouldn't look as adaptable as the others that are in that time period. So it's a bit of just that confusion to me. But that's not enough for me to even question this game because it's still an awesome game. I will not ruin that whatsoever.
Yeah.
This game was a bigger focus on the hack and slash with Zero Saber than even in the X series where you could play at Zero, in my opinion.
There's some problems with that mechanic that they dropped later on in the series. In the first two games, you had to level up your combat. In the first time you get to play Zero in X4, he has a 3-hit combo. You hit the attack button, he hits 3 different times with the animation being different and the third hit doing more damage. He has to relearn how to do that in 01 and 02. And you do this by hitting enemies with that weapon. So if you want Zero to be really powerful, the first thing you have to do is find a place where enemies spawn and just whack, 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 whack,
Now,
whack,
I
whack,
don't
whack,
necessarily
whack,
hate
whack,
this what
whack,
they just
whack,
kept it
whack,
in zero
whack, whack,
one.
whack, 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 whack.
Okay,
Level up to level 1. And then you have to do that 5 more times,
yeah.
each time taking longer and longer to get to a level.
Now, I didn't mind that in zero one necessarily because once again, Zero has total amnesia. So him
Their
having to
excuse, their excuse for it in 0-2 is he got damaged between 1 and 2, and he has to repair himself and relearn things. Again, they dropped it for 0-3, and thank fuck.
yeah.
For 0-3, they brought back the much more malign, much better mechanic of Zero learns a technique by observing and defeating a boss.
Mhm.
The difficulty part of that is, in order to learn this technique, you had to get a high rank in the stage, and the highest way to get a rank is to use no power-ups. Be fast, take no damage, do good damage.
Which is why sometimes you have to do it more than once.
Yeah.
But
And unfortunately, you get one chance. You kill the boss, don't get the weapon, or the weapon and or skill, you got to restart your save file and try again.
yeah.
You-
One of the things I didn't
But
like about 0-3, I'll be honest.
yeah, 0-4 had a much better mechanic for that. I think 0-3 is still my favorite of the series, but every one of these games has something I like about it.
Mm-hmm.
The 0-1 had a connected map. You could teleport to the fights, or you could leave the resistance base and run to the stage you're supposed to do the mission at. Like that. It made the world connected. It made the resistance base feel like a hidden spot where you could run to the nearby desert or sneak on the hidden train nearby and do missions that way. It made it
Mhm.
sort of Metroidvania. Not really, but pretty good. It also introduced Zero having 4 weapons. You had optionally equipped at all times, and the other 2 you'd had to switch the menu in. But you had the trusty Z Saber,
Mm-hmm.
the trusty Z Buster, and introduced new in 0-1, you had the Shield Boomerang, which was in all sequential games afterwards. And then you had the Triple Rod, which was just basically a lance
It's a
that could
poke 'em
extend. The more you
saber.
leveled up, the further it could extend. And he could spin it over his head as a charge attack. It was pretty fun. And also, if you jumped and then thrusted down with it, you could pogo stick with it on certain things.
He learned well from Scrooge McDuck.
I mean, Capcom Legacy. Zero 0-2, he got rid of the triple rod and replaced it with my favorite of the weapons he had, the chain rod, which lets
That's
him
what he got. I thought the chain rod is in 3. That was my mistake.
Nope, he lets you swing on roofs like your goddamn Spider-Man, pull things towards you, rip arms or shields off enemies. It was really fun. 0-3 had the triple rod, which was basically beam tonfas that if you charged, you could then punch the ground and launch yourself higher and you could jump.
I
It's
remember the
watching
tonfas.
watching people do that with speed runs, mwah, is beautiful. And 0-4, he lost the rod weapons and gained something called the Zero Knuckle, which if you killed an enemy with the Zero Knuckle, you basically rip their arm off and go, your weapon's mine now.
You can also grab some turrets and use those, which was fun.
You could grab some shields and have your own shield. I don't think you had the shield boomerang in 4. I think it was just the Buster, the Saber, and the Zero Knuckle, which the Zero Knuckle was incredibly close range, but it did some decent damage. And like I said, you could grab weapons from enemies, and sometimes you use them for puzzle solving in levels. Like, hey, there's a fire. A couple of rooms back, there was a water gun machine. Oh, I'm going to use that to put out fire.
I don't think this was actually a weapon he was given. I think Zero just got tired of losing his weapons. Figured, I'll just use the enemies.
They make a big deal of it in the story. It might be that Zero learned how to do that. Like, his learning techniques has upgraded to such a level that he just goes, I don't need to learn anymore. I can just rip it out of you. Wait, what? It's basically like X's ability to copy things, but Zero does it like he's fucking Mortal Kombat character and ripping parts out. But overall, Zero is much the same character he was in the X franchise, only now his Buster is usable again. There are actually builds for Zero, like you can give him certain equipment that makes him Buster only runs really fun. But they also decided to, because it's Zero, this game actually at times has graphic animations of Zero slicing things apart, so you get to see them fall apart and sparking.
Yeah,
In
that
the
was
Japanese
always
version,
nice.
they spurt blood, and I'm like, these are robots. Why are they spurting blood? In the North American release, they just fall apart. It's still bloody badass looking, though.
Yeah.
Basically, it's the prequel to
Now,
Metal Gear Rising
Zero
Revengeance in
also
terms
did
of
get
Zero.
one other piece of equipment. I forget specifically when it started, but he also got somewhat different armors, but pretty much just color
Yes,
change and with certain different
Zero
abilities.
Two was the first one to introduce that,
Okay,
and
that
one
was
of the
two.
best ones was the X armor, where Zero turns bright blue as if he's X, and his Buster does like double damage, and his Saber does reduced damage.
Eh,
It's fun. There's ones where he gets the black armor and he does double damage, but takes double damage.
really useful if
There's
you're
ones
very
that
good
let
at
him
dodging.
yeah. There's ones that let him like run on water,
Oh yeah, I
dash
forgot about that
through
one.
enemies as he's a goddamn ninja. But yeah, he is very comparable, very capable, and like I said, every game has its own mechanics around it. And you play one, they almost all feel the same, but there are some nuances. I
Hmm.
recommend watching some speedrunners. There's a YouTube channel, Magnus Zero, I believe his name is, who breaks down every different versions of the saber and whatnot. It's really fun, but Zero One is incredibly slow, and I do not. Whenever I go back to it, I always hate having to level up not just the saber, but the Buster, the Shield Boomerang, and the Triple Rod all need to be leveled up. Sure, you never actually have to use anything besides your favorite weapon, but we're gamers. We'd like to see the numbers go up.
Yeah, and some of them are more useful in some situations than others. So
Yeah. Oh, the way Zero learns techniques in Zero Four, like I said, was the best. Whereas there are two versions of each stage: normal version and an easy version of the stage. If you do the easy version, you are locked out of learning the attack. So for one stage, they're charging solar energy. In the normal mode, if you stand in the sun too long, you take heavy amounts of damage. Normal version, you do it during a cloudy afternoon. So it's easy is cloudy afternoon. Normal is sun's out, burn your ass. So it's if you're having a hard time with the stages, there's an easy version. But if you're challenging yourself, you are rewarded for it, and I think that's how you should do it. Don't punish someone, but reward the people doing harder.
I don't agree with the locking them out if you do it on easy, but that's just me.
I feel like you need to reward the harder difficulty somehow.
Well, well,
And honestly, in Zero Four, you do not need those abilities. They're just nice to have.
But let's move on a little bit because otherwise we're going to keep talking about Zero, and we do eventually have to sleep.
Here we have Dr. CL. Pretty much the
And
most
a bunch of cyber elves.
yeah, pretty much the most active human in the franchise since Dr. Wily.
And as far as I know, the only confirmed human.
No, there are other humans we meet in the Zero series.
Okay, I might have forgotten.
The almost Zero Four is about protecting a caravan of them.
Yeah, but the only one I've actually known fully confirmed to be human that you talked to is her. I don't know if anyone actually specified that they were human.
No, we know someone who's specified. We will talk about her in a minute, though.
Oh,
Regardless,
right,
Dr.
is. Okay.
CL is one of those, fictional mega geniuses.
Mm-hmm.
She's also, much like X before her, a pacifist. But she's also one of those pacifists who be along the lines of, well, we kind of need to defend ourselves. I hate every second of it.
You know what? I know exactly who's her for her ancestors.
Mm.
Hey, Maria.
You cut out there for me.
Maria.
But yeah, depending on the translation, she either made Copy X at the age of 6 or the age of 9.
Either way, genius.
Yeah. By that image there, she's about 15 going on 16.
Mm-hmm.
And
there's
she is extremely yeah, the cyber elves, which are artificial AIs that exist in the digital plane but can interact with the physical plane. Essentially, they're your power-ups. You can use them to increase your health bar, use them to get a sub-tank, use them to upgrade your damage rate, defense. You fall down a pit, one will pick you up before you lose a life. I think some turn into extra lives, some just straight up heal you. Some will float behind you and be flying turrets to defend you. But generally, when you use a cyber elf, they die. So the game punishes you by lowering your rank whenever you use a cyber elf. This really sucks.
Yeah.
Because the first Zero game has no sub tanks. You want a sub tank, you gotta permanently destroy a cyber elf, and the game will lower your rank forever with it.
I think
Also,
they
in order
lightened
to,
up a little bit next or Z4, but
yeah,
uh,
I think, but regardless, in order to even use them, you no longer have weapon energy like you did in the previous games. You have when enemies auto drop health, lives, or E crystals. E crystals are used to feed a cyber elf. Once they are strong enoughly fed, they will do their death animation and become the sub tank, the extra health. Some of these are like get 100 E crystals. It's not so bad. Some of them are get 10,000 E crystals, and the biggest amount you can get at a time is 50.
and there's quite a lot of them.
Mm-hmm. They come in 3 categories, but the category everyone cares about is the nurse category because they're the ones that heal and become sub tanks and increase
Yeah.
your health bar. The other two, one like the one category is called beast. They'll be the ones to pick you out of holes and I think pull you and be your support torch. And the other ones are I don't remember what they're called, but they basically just interfere with bosses or general enemies AI and make them easier to fight
Mm-hmm.
or slow down time because that's a anyway. The cyber elves themselves are Deus ex machina, as we said. They're an interesting concept, but they are underutilized, and you are punished for using them. I find in the first few games.
Now, I'm not gonna question too much about the interaction between the cyber world and the real world because they did a lot more weirder stuff in the Mega Man X series, so I can't really say that they're out of touch with
Yeah.
anything.
Also, it feels like this is a prelude to the at the time coming up second timeline for Mega Man, the Battle Network series, which was also a GBA title.
Mm-hmm.
And the games actually do acknowledge each other. If you had a copy of 03 and a copy of I think it was Battle Network 4, and you linked them up, you could get Zero Saber as a weapon in Battle Network, and you'd get some Cyber Elves in Zero from Battle Network.
My
Dude,
only
do more cross,
my
do
only
more stuff like that, Capcom.
my only question was: were the cyber ever mentioned again in ZX?
Yes, they were.
Okay.
Uh, one villain was turning humans into cyber elves by destroying their bodies and digitizing them.
Oh
How?
yeah. Okay.
Why? What? I'm so confused. They were basically going to turn these humans into living batteries. Yeah. But yeah, CL is like I said, she's very active. She spends the entire 4 games trying to. Okay, I've made the resistance to protect people. Now I'm going to try and find a way to end the energy crisis by experimenting with better fuels, better engines, just anything to make this fuel crisis go away so we don't have to fight.
Mm-hmm.
02 starts with her stepping down as head of the resistance because A, she's not exactly a commander. She
No.
admits this. And B, this lets her open up to her research and she makes leaps and bounds because of it. Unfortunately, the Reploid she puts in charge, because she wanted to put Zero in charge, but he disappeared at the end of 01, is got a chip on his shoulder, and he ends up, rather than being a defensive force, goes on the offensive and nearly gets the resistance killed. So she has to take back command for 2, 3, and 4.
Mm-hmm.
That, however, does not stop her research, and almost every character you talk to basically says they're pulling their weight so she doesn't have to spend so much time commanding, so she can,
Mm-hmm.
make the end of the war. And she succeeds. By the end of the 04, she has come up with a way of ending the energy crisis, and it does end the conflict. It's just the person at the end of the 04 who's in charge of the enemy army doesn't care about peace. He just wants to conquer.
Yeah, we'll get to him about him shortly. But
Yeah.
let's move on.
But yes, it's also heavily hinted that CL is massively crushing on Zero, and he's sweet on her, but it feels to me as a big brother protective energy.
Now there is one other character that pops up. We didn't get an image of her, but she's not really hugely important, and that is Alouette.
We actually do have a picture of Ella. She's in the next image. Oh wait, no, but it's resistance. We'll talk about Ella in a minute. But this is the mysterious being who helps you get back your Z saber at the start of
With
01 and
no hint
guides
who
you,
it could possibly be whatsoever.
who guides you on to combat. It's a mysterious X-shaped cyber elf
All right, let's not mince words here. It's X.
who appears as the Pope. This was his garb as he was ruler of Neo Arcadia, and I think it looks stupid. I think it's the giant slippers he has on. They look like those extra large fuzzy slippers people get.
It looks like he just got out of bed.
Kinda, yeah. Like he doesn't have like a hair curl. He has a single giant hair curler around his helmet. It's supposed to be like a halo energy, but it just
It looks better
Pope.
in game with its actual energy floating up,
Yeah,
but
but he looks like the Pope who just got out of bed.
like I like this image of him, like what he would have looked like in armor in the Z series.
Yep, it's a good image. It's very hauntingly cool, and he doesn't say much. He just says, "I have mistakes to fix, and I'm sorry I have to ask you to do this, Zero." Basically, because if he does anything as a cyber elf, he might delete himself.
Yeah,
So he's very limited on what
is
he can and cannot do.
X is both a very powerful cyber sprite and a very weak one at the same time, in a sense.
Yeah, I mean, he can store your saber and just hand it to you. He can help teleport you to safety. He can guide you at times. But overall, if he does too much, there's a good chance he'll. And he does say he's running out of energy several times.
Mm-hmm.
But he also knows when to. Okay, I cannot sit back. This might kill me, but here we go again.
Because I'm pretty sure, I think it was in 3 where he tries to counteract the Mother Elf and freezes units so you can escape.
Yep. And after 3, he disappears. It's heavily implied that he burnt himself out for 03.
Because he does say he has to go and rest, but that it was kind of really.
More along the lines of, I'm going to go die alone so you guys don't have to mourn me. Bye.
Yeah.
But he does lament that he blames himself for everything. Typical X.
Okay.
But this
X,
time, it kind of is more of his fault in places.
In small places, yes, he is hugely at fault. But he's not responsible for what Copy X did.
Nope.
He's responsible for Will in a large sense, but not what he did when he got back.
No.
He's not responsible for Omega.
The Energy Crisis. No.
He's not responsible for the Energy Crisis.
He's not responsible for how his Guardians are acting, which we'll get to them in a minute. But he is still responsible for setting up Neo Arcadia without a proper leadership when he disappears.
Yeah, see, that's the question with the timeline we have. It's like, because it was, if he didn't have time to really make a plan, fine, because Mother was causing a disaster. I can somewhat understand this, but
if he just made the city, he should not be the linchpin for the city. And also, if he's the linchpin to the city, he's a terrible governor.
it just leads a lot. Like I said, there's a lot of questions between Mega Man X and Mega Man Zero, and a lot of it has to do with X and Neo Arcadia.
Yep. Which is Neo Arcadia a city state? What is it? How big is it? Where is it located?
Given how X acts in X7, yeah, it kind of just. It's not a good character for X.
No, I do feel like Zero does a better job at showing X as a true pacifist and a person who wants to lead people to safety, but he wasn't very good at it, but unlike an X7 where he just stands around whining the entire time.
Let me put it, this is just going to be a small little talk about how I see X. X is a kind of mixture of Amuro Ray from Gundam and Optimus Prime. He laments more about the war and the fighting that has to happen. But as a proper leader, he knows that if he doesn't, things will only get worse. And when he has to put his
foot down, he knows inaction is as bad as actually helping the bad guys.
Mm-hmm. Now, he also knows that that the people he's fighting are most of the time being infected with a virus. It's not, they may not really want to do this. But at the same time, it's the greater good for the masses versus one life. It's not fair. I will entirely agree.
No.
But
like, as much as I prefer Zero's, okay, I'm just going to cut out the problem, that can be too vicious at times. You do need to strike that balance.
Mm-hmm. And if it had been more,
if you can end the conflict peacefully, always take that. But as soon as that option is gone, someone like Zero needs to be put in.
And you can't, and even then, you can't always solve it with Zero.
No, Zero is a bandage.
Mm-hmm.
He just stops the bleeding temporarily. X's entire goal is to not only stop the current conflict, but prevent the next one. Someone like Zero is not capable of ending the conflict permanently. He's just capable of, okay, there is a fire here, I'm putting it out. I don't know what's causing these fires next to this gasoline depository, but whatever, I'm just gonna keep putting out these fires. Where X would be like, maybe we shouldn't leave all that gasoline next to that dry forest.
Because X by Dr. Light's design was supposed to be another connection between man and machine.
Mhm.
X was a free thinking android. That's why they used the term Reploid, was replicated android. And there's another reason, I
Mhm.
think, with a movie that I can't think of the name of at the moment.
Um, Blade Runner and the
Yes,
Replicants.
thank you. I could not think of that for a moment. But he was.
Sorry, it took me. I was like, you forgot that. It actually stunned me for a second.
I brain fart on that. I won't lie.
So, it's okay. It's okay.
But
But yeah, I feel like X's position in the Zero series is a natural progression of his character. For those people who really wanted to play as X, I understand that sucks because it does feel like the X games quickly became the Zero series prototype because Zero is much more interesting as a playable character in
well,
an
that's
action game.
also because Zero was intended to be the main character of the X series, but because they felt that no one would be able to connect to Zero, they made X at the last minute.
Which the Zero for series is then basically like, well, we now know that you can change protagonists and the fans will follow. So let's do that.
And here's the thing, I don't have a problem with that because I liked how they made X. The problem is because it's a action 2D platformer, the story always focused on the risings and the actual fight between
Yeah.
the 8 Mavericks and such. And
And when they tried to show X going a different route, they just made him Luke Skywalker going, I want to go to Tashi Station. Levels of X, shut the fuck up.
yeah,
If you're not gonna help, get the hell out of Hunter
rather than
HQ.
showing him trying to bring a bridge between Reploids and humans in some sense, like the
He
best.
just uh, hung around the Hunter HQ complaining, why must we fight? X, you're asking that to train soldiers who are in the middle of an active conflict.
X, this is X7. We've had how many uprisings at this point? We know about the goddamn virus. We know about uh, Zero being the
Free
cause of the
will
virus.
and
We know about other things. Will you please shut up and help?
yes. And that is entirely why if everyone who says X6 is the worst game, I'm like, have you touched X7? Because it makes everyone besides Zero seem inept, and they still manage to make Zero seem inept because the way he handles Axel just makes me go, what?
But there
Anyway,
is one other
enough.
reason why I have a problem with the X series in a sense, and we'll get to that in a moment when we talk about a certain villain.
Yeah,
But let's
yeah.
move on.
Anyway, let's get on to the actual resistance. Alouette, as Soul's time, is the little
Oh,
girl there hugging a plush toy.
my mistake. I forgot she
Yeah,
was in this picture.
yep. These are the original Resistance fighters who you meet in Zero One. Some of these characters don't last into Zero Two, and some more don't last to Zero Three. But the three most important ones are Alouette, the little girl in pink. To her direct left, I forget his name. He's the engineer who helps Alia, helps CL by fixing Zero's
That's
weapons,
our left. I know it's
upgrading a
right. You're
few.
talking about the guy with the visor, right?
Yes, yeah, the visor, yeah.
Okay.
And then the old man to the other side of Alouette. He is I think a pretty funny story. He's an old Reploid baker who fell in love with a human, but she kept growing older and he stayed forever young, and it broke her heart because they were in love. Every time she looked over at her beloved, he was still the young man, so he upgraded himself to be old and feeble to stay with her.
Mm-hmm.
She passed away a few years ago, but because of his bizarre upgrades to himself, he can't go backwards to be fuel efficient, and that's why CL rescued him. So he stands around the base just giving you old man stories, and he's generally a nice fellow.
Other than being slightly fuel efficient, he has not done anything illegal.
Well, maybe not having eyeballs is illegal. He has hair where his eyes should be.
Oh, and then he beat other rebels with a stick
Yeah.
immensely. Like he was in an underground
So,
fighting arena, and
yeah, basically when he rips off his shirt, he's Master Roshi. But like I said, it's very, very fuel inefficient. Also, his farts are just pure methane. But no, none of that's true. But he's just
No.
fuel inefficient. He's just a fuel inefficient old romantic who either can't go backwards or feels like if he did go back to a younger form, it would be betraying his beloved's memory.
Not to mention the resources to go backward, yada yada yada.
Yeah. Everyone else is just chatty in general. They might have a function on base. They might do something else, but it's just those three that matter. They are in basically every one of the Zero games, and they're there to be Zero support.
Yeah, you'll come across others throughout the
X,
series. They all really have the same goal to try and help the
yep.
resistance.
Alouette herself is very fascinated with cyber elves, so as the series progresses, you can talk to her to learn more about cyber elves, and she even helps you with the fourth one, the one in the fourth game, which is a learning elf that can do multiple abilities, and you don't get punished for using it.
Yay!
Shelvaria will give you weapon upgrades and armor upgrades. So yeah, but all these people, well, all these Reploids will actually stand around and help in combat. They will be on missions. They're completely inefficient.
Yeah, usually
Because
if you're
it,
unsure if someone's a Reploid or not, usually just look at their ears.
yeah, they have the one person called the Chobit ears.
Generally, if they have
But
those white things over as for ears, they're a Reploid.
CL had them, but they're implied to be headsets so she can communicate with everyone. But this is showing off how human-like Reploids have gotten. They're almost indistinguishable from humans. And by the time we get to the next series, the ZX series, nobody can tell. Every human cyborg, every Reploid is almost organic, like life.
And we'll talk about
So
that more in
there's
the ZX series.
yeah, but I do like this being the gap between almost all the Reploids in the X series being big, chunky guys with maybe human faces or bird people, giant robot bird. And here, we still do see the more animalistic Reploids as your bosses, but that's implied they're designed that way for combat.
Mm-hmm.
These are civilians. They're not designed for combat. They're designed for household tasks, most likely. And they banded together under CL to defend themselves and fight for freedom.
Mm-hmm. But let's move on.
And the one thing I do like about them is they don't get in Zero's way. They all praise and thank Zero, but they do try and help him. But they know when Zero's serious, okay, we're gonna get out of your way so you can do your job.
We're just gonna take a few steps back and run.
Do you need anything? Towel. I'll get him a towel. Get him a towel. Ah.
I mean, generally they either offer advice in the area because Zero doesn't know the place, or in another sense, just try and be friends with someone who's technically a stranger in the world as a whole.
Yeah. Lots of them have different conversation, and during all the Zero games, when you're not on missions, you can explore the base and just talk to people. You can shoot the shit, which is something I've always wanted in the X games. And here comes the Zero games, where you have an actual HQ and you can talk to characters, learn about their histories.
I mean,
It's fun.
The closest we got to that for X was in the X command mission, and
Which came out after this.
Yeah, and even that was really skimpy on that, and for the most part. But God, Capcom Command Mission 2, it's literally sitting right there in front of you.
I'd play the fuck out of it. But whatever you do, Capcom, don't make a 0-5. We'll get to that in a minute. Anyway, next image. So 0-4, you're not at your HQ. You're on a mission to protect a caravan of humans fleeing the now dictatorship of New Arcadia.
Mm-hmm.
It's gone completely to hell. Someone else is in charge, and they're led by a reporter, Nigel. I can't remember how to pronounce her name, but she is 100% human. She and everyone else in the caravan is human. They have been abused by the Reploids because, despite the fact the Neo Arcadia is shutting down Reploids, they're resisting, and humans are getting caught in the crossfire of the Neo Arcadian guards and the resistance. So when they saw a chance to book it from the clearly crazy Dr. Wheel in charge, they booked it. And they went to the one place they heard about. It's called Area Zero. It's a strange crater from when a spacecraft or a space colony or something huge crashed into Earth. And the colony's systems were still functioning to create life. So there's organic life here. It's sustainable. We could live here. Yes, tying back to X5 and X6, the crater from the Eurasia colony has become a haven for humanity. What was going to doom them with the Zero virus now is their only hope for survival away from oppression.
This is
They
also
do not
during the
want your help.
time where Seal is putting on the final touches to her.
Yep,
Uh,
she is minutes away from ending the energy crisis.
mhm. Now
But
that raises the question how she was spread it so fast, but future technology and
yeah,
whatnot.
what I do love about CL is her resistance was formed to protect Reploids, but as soon as she learned about humans in danger, she immediately shifts the focus to be like, we have to help everyone. And the resistance took one look at her and go, yeah, we do. Yeah, I mean, we're free of Neo Arcadia. They should have the right to be free of Neo Arcadia. So 04 is about people trying to ruin Area Zero, people hiding in Area Zero, not wanting your help, and you doing it anyway. Because that establishes what Zero's character is. He's pretty much the only one actively doing these missions because, in his opinion, it's the right thing to do. I don't care if nobody wants me to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I know what's right. I know what's wrong. I'm going to fight Wheel and save these people. He doesn't want thanks. He's never wanted thanks. Several times in the Zero franchise, the Resistance go, yeah, Zero, thank you. And he's like, I'm just doing what I'm doing.
Yep.
Don't waste your thanks on me. You know who you should be thanking? CL. She's actually working hard to solve the issues. I'm just beating people up.
Now, as M said, she was also a reporter. I believe
And that's how I believe how she learned about Area Zero.
I believe she was a military reporter,
Mm-hmm.
if I remember the story correctly.
Yep.
So
She was in a war zone.
Mm-hmm.
She's in many war zones. She's not afraid of things. She's willing to put up a good fight too. Obviously, compared to combat Reploids, she cannot, but
Yeah.
she is very tough and very spirited, and everyone respects her instantaneously because of that attitude, including someone we'll talk about in a minute. But
Mm-hmm.
those are our protagonists. Let's get on to the antagonists.
Here's our first antagonists.
Neo Arcadia is led by the Copy X and his 4 guardians. On the left, fighting Fafnir. The green one is Sage Harpuya. In the back, we have Hidden Phantom. And on the right, Fairy Leviathan.
Now,
These 4 are all based off armors X had in
Mhm.
X5 and X6. Although, Leviathan's, I'm still not sure which ones he's based off.
I was going to ask you, because I know Fafnir's based on the Gaia armor.
Mm-hmm.
Harpuya is based off the Falcon armor.
Mm-hmm.
Phantom is based off the Shadow armor.
Mm-hmm.
And I have no idea what Leviathan would be based off.
She has to be based off the blade armor, I'm guessing.
Well, it's either that or the
yeah,
basic armor, because she's blue. But that's the only thing I can think of.
These are 4, they're based off 3 of the 3 elements and non-elemental. Fafnir is fire, Harpuya is electricity, Phantom is nothing, and Leviathan is water.
What?
And yes,
If Naruto has taught me anything,
Harpuya,
Shadow is totally an element.
Harpuya is a guy. He's coded male, but he does have a female voice actress.
Japan people.
Oh, that's actually pretty common in general in almost all. But they do go a higher pitch for him. Like, it's not a woman doing a guy's voice, it's just a woman's voice. Who knows? He could be trans. I don't care. Harpuya is basically the leader of these 4.
Mhm.
He's the most competent. He's very serious about his job, but he actually does have growth at the franchise where he slowly learns to be more like X, where he learns right from wrong. He doesn't just blindly follow whoever's in charge like he's supposed to. Leviathan and Fafnir are basically just, who the fuck do we get to beat up today? Because, oh my god, that is the best part of the day. And Phantom he's the serious stoic ninja. He is also the only one of the Guardians who does not survive 01. During the standard fight all the bosses again, he commits seppuku with a bomb to blow you up. And actually, it killed me my very first time I played the game because I was expecting him just to do a big fancy explosion. He was doing a bluster like, I'll take you with me. And he explodes, and the explosion actually did damage. I had just a little enough HP that he killed me.
And this again shows a difference between X and any attempt to copy him. As stated before, having knowledge of something and the actual experience are 2 different things. And they were, I believe they were created after Copy X, and Copy X had uses for them to
Mhm.
keep order.
Yep.
And they're not
They're
the one-for-one clones Copy was.
no, they are his guardians. You have to get past them to get to him, but he also will send them out. Like, hey, I've lost troops in the desert. Fafnir, take your elite troops and comb the desert for what took out my men. Leviathan, I'm moving people to a hidden underwater jail. You have the submarine, you do that. Harpuya, I believe the resistance fighters will attack this train. Ambush them. They've taken that old factory. Take it back, Phantom.
And one of the
And
little kind of really questionable things with Reploids and in general I found is that they're made with a purpose, but they're given free will. So it's kind of like
yeah,
confusion on that in
like what
some
happens?
cases.
Like Leviathan is designed for water combat. What happens if she doesn't like water?
I mean, fortunately she does,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. She's also got a weird relationship with Zero. She's very flirty with him. She's trying to be the cat woman or the black cat of the series, but I don't know. It just it always came across to me as you're basically my best friend's daughter. Please stop. This is creepy.
yeah, like they're considered X's kids in a
Yeah,
sense,
more so than any Reploid beforehand has been.
which
Yeah.
again, if anybody ever
Eh.
listened to my Mega or X thing that I got put up on this channel,
Mm.
I personally think X would consider a lot of Reploid, in a sense, his children, as he is the father of the Reploid race.
Yep. Now, that aside, you do fight these guys multiple times throughout the series, and they're
Mhm.
fairly difficult at times. I do like them as a unit. I do like how, even though Phantom dies in the first game, his ghost appears in the third game because he went digital, and digital energy is all acting up, and you get to fight him one more time.
Yeah, you get to fight Phantomon, the new Digimon.
I was going to go say you fight Hidden Phantom.exe because it was also a tie into Battle Network, but that works too.
I know, but you said going digital.
I know. There was no other way I could say that.
But
But
the other thing I liked about these four is that they're very unique in their personalities. Fafnir's thick-headed and a brute. Harpuya is the leader, and generally all around, and as far as I know, except for maybe Phantom, the most intelligent of them all.
yeah,
As
Lev-
M said, Phantom is stoic and clearly a ninja.
yeah,
And if anybody knows anything probably about a ninja, they were very loyal and wanted to make sure you died.
yeah. That's why I do like how even though the other three survived the rematch with you, he doesn't want to survive. He realizes that Zero is that much of a threat that the only weapon he has left is his own body as a
And
bomb.
Phantom was also the most loyal to Copy X. Like,
Hmm.
they were all loyal to Copy X, but
But slowly, Harpuya starts to realize he should be loyal to Neo Arcadia, not the guy in Neo Arcadia's throne.
mhm. Leviathan,
Harp- like I said, she's the flirty one, but she's also as battle crazed as Fafnir.
yeah, I get the feeling that was because she was the only female of the group. I think they just
Yeah,
needed something
yeah,
for
they just
her.
did. Yeah, I mean, they could have left her the battle crazed one and had Fafnir be like a general with a thing up his ass where he's unmovable.
Yeah. But regardless, that's the four that we have. It's not too bad. They can be kind of generic at times, but they're good for opposition. I like them.
Yeah,
Um,
I think they don't appear all in 04,
no.
but they
Um,
are characters. They don't you fight them in 1 and 2, and they are characters in 3, but they are not compatible. In fact, they almost become allies in 3
didn't they transform in 3?
too.
That was 2.
Yep.
Oh, right. Okay, because that's when she was released. Okay, I brain
Mhm,
fart.
mhm.
I
So
get
next
2
we
and 3
have
confused a lot. My apologies.
oh, that's fine. Next we have Copy X in his ultimate armor. I like everything besides the one blade sticking out of the middle of his helmet.
See, this is where I'm a little confused on a lot of this because I don't know if this is supposed to be one of X's armors he got and Copy just picked it up, or if this is
Apparently, it's the Yellow's design of an ultimate armor 4X that was left over, and Copy got it.
okay.
At least that's what I've read. I don't remember that. Anyway, it is CL's design, I know that much.
Okay, that I like. It's just one of those really weird things because, as we said, physically, copy X is an exact copy of X. That it's clearly stated that there's
The
no.
only appearance difference is his eyes are wrong,
Mhm. There's no
and
if.
his personality
Yeah,
is very.
yeah,
But physically, he should be as powerful as X was when CL copied him.
yes. So
X likely would have gotten stronger afterwards because he's always growing, but he should at least be that strong.
yeah, so there's no if, ands, or buts. As clearly stated both the manual and the game.
Yep. And he is the final boss of the first game.
And you know what? I kind of like that because it kind of gives Zero a good starting point for what he has to face later on.
Hmm. He also feels like the perfect foil to Dr. Light and X's whole philosophies. He's literally doing what they wanted, but on the extreme level. He's bringing peace, but he doesn't care about killing people.
Mm-hmm.
It's the letter of peace he's following, not the spirit of peace.
Mm-hmm.
And he's incapable of realizing that's what he's doing wrong because numbers are going up. Hey, our stats are good. Yeah, because the people who you don't like are dying. They can't play.
And if he really gets angry, he has this,
Yeah, it's
which
a
I
seraphim
am
form.
90% sure isn't original X armor.
Yeah, I think this is something he did to himself or CL put into him. I don't know why she would have, but it's a really good final boss design. It also is really difficult for a first time playing it because he ends up destroying the floor, so there's two pits around you at all times, and you have pillars you can jump off that move up and down, and he'll destroy those
Mm-hmm.
pillars, and he'll set the floor on fire, so you have to jump the pillars, but then you're on the pillar with nowhere to go, and he can attack you there. His weak spot is only his head, so you do have to jump up and hit him. It was pretty difficult my first time playing it. It's one of those fights that stuck in my head because one of the things we forgot to mention about the Zero series is it is a lot harder than the X series.
I'm just picturing his feet falling asleep in that thing.
I don't think he has feet anymore. I think they fell off.
That solved that problem.
Hmm.
But
But
let's move
it's
on.
yeah. So after his defeat, the Resistance thinks, okay, we've got them on the run. So CL steps down and puts in charge this man, El Plizo, who was a low-level courier bot who rose the ranks of Resistance by schmoozing his way up there. And once he's in command, he figures, all right, we'll go on the offensive. We'll go take down the Guardians, and we will take Neo Arcadia, and we will get our freedom. And the Guardians just kick the shit out of him. They are
Yeah.
They are military trained. They have actual armies, not just volunteers, and they're all hardened warriors.
And once again, even if just based on X, despite X being a huge practitioner of peace, not a pacifist, there's a difference.
Yes.
Those specs are really good for what they were not intended for, apparently.
Yeah. Now, Fafnir and Leviathan mock him after he licks his wounds and flees. So he starts hearing whispers. For you see, the Dark Elf we mentioned before, while sealed in X, has started to leak out. And part of her has led him to her babies, the two most powerful cyber elves. And with their help, he slowly finds where the real Dark Elf is. Slowly loses himself to power, becoming this. After freeing the Dark Elf by destroying X's remains and basically almost taking over Neo Arcadia, he has left the city state in a complete ruined state, all because he didn't like being mocked.
Boo hoo.
Zero being the guy who's basically like, okay, we want to stop New Arcadia from killing people, but you are going to make things 1,000 times worse. Chases after him. And he's the final boss of Zero too.
Mm-hmm. And then once you
He
finish him off, it's really kind of what it was supposed. I believe it was showing signs that the Dark Elf was reverting back to the Mother Elf.
sort of,
Like
thanks to
it's a
X,
little
X's
yeah, it's a little unclear on
inf-
that.
yes. But he also, I think, did we use the image of his final boss form?
Uh, no.
No, we didn't. No, we didn't. But yeah, his final boss form is a twisted seraphim as well, and I think that's nice because the Dark Elf is copying X's data to make him stronger, and it's El Pizo is basically, I feel like playing the world's smallest violin about him. He's he extremely meant well, but he let the being in command on a few successful missions go straight to his head.
Mm-hmm. And the thing I liked
He
about it
also
was
he, go ahead.
is that it shows that there are other problems that could come about other than just the conflict between Neo Arcadia and the Resistance. Like, this is a
Hmm.
problem brought up from the Resistance in general and someone's ego. Now,
Hmm.
true, it was really steadified by the Mother Elf, but you get the feeling if he'd gotten a way to get power some other way, he might have gone that path as well.
Yeah. When Zero returns at the start of Zero 2, El Piso's taken command by that point, and he basically looks at Zero going, "We don't need your help anymore. We're a fine oiled machine now." And Zero's like, whatever. You got missions, I'll still do them." Oh, well, if you're not going to be upset that I've faithfully taken over as the most important resistance fighter, you can go do these missions for me. Whatever. Oh. Oh no, Zero's successful with every mission. I need to be more successful with my missions. He's so pathetic. It's really quite sad. And when he does die, he does lament everything he did. He just wanted people to respect him because as a lowly courier, he had been spat on his entire life. You can feel sorry for him, but you also can feel the world's smallest violin at the high.
Yep. But
But
moving on.
With the Dark Elf released, someone else can return.
Okay, I'm just going to admit this
This
is my favorite villain.
These are my favorite Mega Man villains this franchise has ever had. This is Omega, the conquering Reploid that was used as the linchpin of the Elf Wars. He and the Dark Elf nearly destroyed the entire planet. He is called Omega, for he is the final machine. And the story and the fights hype him up as that.
Mm-hmm.
He is the silent, ever loyal servant of his creator. And that's how big he is compared to the Guardians.
Yeah. Also, side note, this is him being restrained.
We'll talk about that in a minute. But yeah, he's a lot of fun fights. You fight him
Yeah.
multiple times in Zero 03. He is the main. He's the muscle of Zero 03. He's the final boss, but not the final antagonist.
Yeah.
You see, after
Oh,
the L4s,
he's also got
which
an
this
army.
is, yeah, when the Dark Elf and Omega are connected, Omega's programming broadcasts a shut down all free will command. Every Reploid obeys.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean every rep. Even when this happens in Zero 03, the resistance base turns on Zero. If not for X's firewall ability, blocking the signal, they would be on his side. They actually aim guns at Zero and CL.
Yes. Zero, and I would have to assume X, being not technically
Yes,
Reploids, both would have been exempt from
are immune.
this.
Yeah, they don't have the overlining code weakness.
And I like that because it shows a massive difference between X and Zero and Reploids. Like, there's still something there, even, I would have to say, even Seal didn't copy exactly.
Yep.
Now, what you can assume that is, I couldn't tell you. But that's part of the.
I don't know. Maybe they're coded in BASIC and their Reploids are coded in Python. I don't know. I'm not a coding guy.
But all I can tell you,
I just know that all Reploids run on the same firmware, which Omega can pirate. Or hack into, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, that is Dr. Wheels in turn. Dr. Wheels takes over Neo Arcadia by making a duplicate Copy X because he's that smart. He found the remains of Copy X, goes, oh, I'll just make my own version. He doesn't even do a good job of it. This Copy X is stammering, he's glitched up, he's fought as a mid-boss in a sense.
and he just really wants
But
to kill Zero.
because it's Copy X and Neo Arcadia puts X in charge, and he's the only X we have, ergo he's put in charge, and then Copy X's first command is I clear Dr. Wheel of all crimes and name him Neo Arcadia's second in command. Ooh, look at that. I'll just take this jump. Thank you, X. Yes.
Yeah,
And
here's
that's what
the
makes Harpuya
thing.
go from Harpuya knows his history and goes, the fuck?
Yeah, here's the thing.
So
I'm not sure. I forget, did Neo Arcadia know the Copy X was a copy? Or were they under the assumption this was X?
I think they were under the impression that was X in order to keep state secrets.
Because that just raises a lot of questions about how someone does a 180 in personality.
Well, when you give someone absolute power with no control or anyone to go, yeah, you can't do that. That's against our, our actual laws. You're not bigger than the laws. You're just supposed to help govern. Wow, this feels way too on brand for right now what's going on in the world, isn't it?
Let's move on.
Yeah.
So,
Anyway, yeah,
Wheel is a crackpot. I'm just saying it.
yeah, this is Form 2 for Omega in the final boss fight, where he's even bigger. That X cannon is basically Zero could fit inside the cannon. Luckily, he never brings that giant Zero sword down on you.
Yeah, for someone trying to mercilessly murder you, he doesn't really try that hard in this one. Like, there's
Again, the
half
only
a
weak
dozen
spot is
things
the
he
hedge
could
of
have
the
done to actually mutilate you, and
Yep.
he just doesn't. Like, falling on you would be
So,
a
yeah.
hell of a thing. This thing is kaiju size.
Yep.
But there's one other secret Omega has. The reason why he is the most powerful weapon Wheel has is that he is using Zero's original body.
What people have started referring to in the franchise as the God of Destruction.
Mm-hmm.
At some point during the Maverick War, Zero got that title. It was likely the Mavericks calling him that because he was just that good at taking down Mavericks. When they're like, "Hey, he's destroyed an entire army of Mavericks. What is that, sort of God of Destruction?" Yeah, well, he's outside our door.
Oh my shit!
Can we self-terminate? Can we self-terminate? No, we're not programmed to be able to do that. Shit. Zero opens the door. Oh no, you guys self-terminated by starting this shit.
Yeah, regardless
Also,
of how the title came to be,
yeah.
Omega was not
Omega
one to shy away from that title.
Omega has his own title he gives himself. Before you fight him in this form, he declares himself the Messiah, Umario Missione,
The Messiah to what?
and starts
I
the
haven't
fight.
a goddamn clue.
Well, the Messiah to Wheel's world.
Fair enough. I thought maybe it was just murder mayhem because that seems to be his two priorities.
Wheel refers to himself as the devil, Mario Kuma.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah. So the final fight of 03 is 0 versus 0. And the song that plays is Cannonball, and I'm sorry, this is why 03 is my absolute favorite game of the Mega Man franchise. It's got the best soundtrack. The final 3 fights are amazing. The story is so good. Nobody comes across as that dumb in the storyline. Everyone comes across as making choices that kind of make sense, except for the people of Neo Arcadia who go, yeah, well, we totally believe X has been gone for like 2 years. We'll trust him. Whoever this Wheel guy is, if X wants to be second command, that's great. Oh, X is dead. Well, now we finally have a second command. That means Wheel's in charge of Neo Arcadia. All's gonna be good. Yeah, the game ends with the loss of X, who used up all of his energy to protect the 3 Guardians who help you beat Omega.
Mm-hmm.
Also to keep you safe from some of Wheel's abilities. So you lost X, who has been Zero's biggest support. Neo Arcadia is now in the hands of an insane dictator who thinks the human nature is to conquest everything. If you don't want to conquer, you're not human, so he doesn't like you then. That's literally why Wheel hates people. He's like, oh, you're all weak and want to be ruled? Well, you're not human to me. You're all ants. I'm the only human because I'm the one with the influence to conquer.
And then we have his accomplice / minion, the devil incarnate, using Zero's body.
Yeah. It's such a good fight. It's so good they brought the fight back for another game.
I will admit to this one, the entire thing of 03, I enjoyed it, don't get me wrong. But I have to agree with M. The final 3 fights with Omega, I enjoyed the hell out of.
Yeah, it's so fun. And like I said, you win. You save the day, but you actually ended up in deeper shit because of Wheel. Wheel is one of the only examples in the Mega Man franchise where the villain wins by losing and wanted to win either way.
And I also like that before you fight Omega, Zero or not Zero, X kind of tells you that the highlights of what happened with Omega and you.
Yeah.
And tells you that he believes that despite the body, you as a true Zero will still prevail.
Yeah,
Like
he spirit matters more in X's opinion. He believes the true nature of Zero's heroic energy will be triumphant, even though your current body is a poor facsimile of your original by a large degree, because this Zero is capable of doing attacks that Mega Man Zero has forgotten. He
Mhm.
has some of, and I'm glad this wasn't in the original version, but in the rematch you have in the ZX games, he can heal himself.
Oh yeah, forgot about that.
He can spam heal himself if he wants to. In this
Yeah.
one, he just makes himself invincible. When that animation happens in ZX1, he heals himself.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later because me and Em had very different experiences with that.
Yeah. Also, one of the reasons why is mostly because, well, this is more my gameplay style than Souls, and also at times I like to Kenpachi myself in these fights and make it more difficult for fun. Soul plays Dark Souls games way better than I do, I will admit that. But when it comes to 2D action games, I'm the one handicapping myself just because, I defeat that boss with only half a health bar lost. What if I start the fight with only 2 pips of health?
To be fair, I'm also a better shot in 2D games. Apparently,
I don't understand.
neither do I.
I fight this Zero with Saber and Triple Rod. I don't use the Buster in this fight.
I
I also
used
never used the
everything, but
shield
that's
boomerang.
also part of my thing that is like, I'm here to win this fight. Screw off.
Although I guarantee you right now, if I did this fight right now, my rust would show and he'd kick my ass. But I also was the kid who would reload the save file and do this fight for like 3 hours on a
But
long road
but I
trip
do
somewhere.
like how between Zero and Omega, there's a couple of differences. His Omega's armor in the red spots is a darker red.
He's got blood red eyes.
Yeah, and his hair
He
I
his
think was paler, if I remember right.
Also, when he first appears, he doesn't have hair. He flicks his arm, declares that he is the Messiah, and his hair just appears like a cape, and it's so fucking
Mm-hmm. And
badass.
like I said, if I remember, it's paler in color than Zero's.
Yeah, this was largely done so you could identify the two of them via sprites,
Mm-hmm. Also,
but they keep it for all art, so it's
yeah,
canon.
it also I think it's also kind of age after the 100 years, and Omega's not one to care about appearance, so it would have let it
Or
just
it's dried blood, whichever you want to say it is.
yeah.
It's either rust, dried blood, or just Omega's tainted a different
Omega's
color.
also the one with the pink saber.
Yeah, which actually doesn't look that bad.
No, but yeah, this is the Craft and his.
Einherjar led Einherjar. This
Mhm.
is the antagonist forced for 04. These are the 9 minions that Wheel sends out as Supreme Commander of Neo Arcadia to destroy Area Zero and kill anyone who tries to escape.
Yeah,
Unlike
remember
all the previous bosses from the previous 3-0 games who are honorable defenders of Neo Arcadia, these are just madmen Wheel has sent out to do murder.
generally
Except for Kraft.
mercenaries, really.
Yeah, Kraft was a high-ranking member of the Neo Arcadian army. With the Guardians having been declared as traitors for attacking Omega, Kraft is now in charge of the army. Kraft is a depressed man who thinks we're all dead anyway, so we might as well live under Wheel's rule because it's the closest thing to stable we have, because this Area Zero does not look that great.
Yeah, Area Zero, despite being the possible safe haven for humanity, still has a few issues.
Yeah, it's untamed land, it's brand new, it's still growing, it's still developing.
Um,
That's Neo Arcadia Neo. It doesn't even have a pool table like Neo Arcadia has, like an entire room of pool
well,
tables.
the other thing is that there are spots that are still kind of warping reality a little bit, like not like
Yeah,
it used to, but
yeah, it's not great.
yeah.
It's not safe. But to the humans who fleeing New York, it looks safe. Kraft, however, is friends with Nigel. In fact, he is deeply in love with the head of the caravan. And her feisty attitude makes him slowly come around to being realizes that, you know, maybe life is worth struggling with. Maybe the easy answer isn't the best answer. And, well, the entire time while you're doing this, they call this Ragnarok. Turns out this is just a distraction as Wheel builds his own giant Death Star laser. He intends to nuke Area Zero and then laser beam anywhere else people try and flee so that only he has a safe spot. If you want to live, you must live under what is his direct control.
Mm-hmm. This is
And
also
also, if he doesn't like you, he'll do this.
this is also one of Wheel's egos saying, "Oh, I have a space station. My power is above all of you."
Yep. So Aftercraft slowly comes around to your side. Um, he goes the extreme route and blasts Neo Arcadia to destroy Wheel. In a two function. First, if I kill Wheel, he can't do this anymore. Two, maybe we're too reliant on Neo Arcadia. So if I destroy Neo Arcadia, we have to go to Area Zero.
Yeah, I might want to think that out a little bit more.
Yeah.
I mean, there's still people in the
Yeah.
Arcadia. Not all of them are assholes.
Yeah. A lot of the people going on and leaving Arcadia have no idea what's going on, either because of ignorance or propaganda.
And some of them are still
Ignoranda?
just trying to survive. Like, survival is a key point
Propaganda?
here.
Yeah. Also, it's been pretty much established that between 03 and 04, Wheel has made Neo Arcadia a shit show.
Yeah.
Like, it clearly wasn't that great before. It was probably doing the whole, oh no, we're great. Just no one look at the dead bodies over here. Now it's, we're great. If not, we'll throw dead bodies at us from the top of this tower.
But once that crashes and Zero can get into that, yeah, Wheel is very determined.
Wheel survived the laser beam hitting him straight in his headquarters and teleported up to Ragnarok to take direct control. The main cannon doesn't function anymore, so he'll just pull a deep impact and smash the colony laser into the ground. You see, Wheel is human. But back at the end of the Elf Wars, after being arrested and captured, Omega being captured, the two of them were launched into space. But to ensure that he lived through his punishment, his brain was transferred into an immortal body that can heal itself.
Ah, God, X.
The intention was he would spend thousands, if not millions of years circling Earth with an inactive Omega, suffering the loneliness and crippledness and being mocked by his. And he comes back to Earth because the Dark Elf gets freed.
See, here's
Omega
the
wakes
thing.
up Omega wakes up in the space station, damages it enough that it goes back to Earth so they can get back to the Dark Elf.
See, here's the thing. I can't entirely put the blame on X for this one, but I know he had a hand in it.
Yeah, X picked the people who did the justice. In fact, you want to know who locked him up and did this? They're the final four bosses in 03. Those four judges, as they call themselves, got reprogrammed by Wheel to be bosses against you.
Yeah.
Wheel absolutely loves twisting everything to his advantage. So once he's in charge of Neo Arcadia, he just has the judges come to his new laboratory and just goes, "All right, I'm going to upgrade you guys to be loyal to me and turn into monsters." And they're like, "Well, X did put you in charge."
Yeah, remember how we said almost no one's an idiot in this game series?
Yeah, X just. I feel like what happened because of X just jumping on the Dark Elf as soon as he had to. Nobody knew what to do without him, so they just started making up rules wherever they went. And when CL showed up with a copy X, everyone's like, "Oh, thank God, he'll handle everything. He's just as smart as regular X." And for like the first week, copy X behaved perfectly until he hit an ethical difficulty and decided to go completely cold logic.
And
And
that
what I
kind
love
of,
about what I love about Doctor Wheel as a villain is he immediately took over because he smelled weakness. He saw all the flaws in Neo Arcadia as soon as he came back to Earth and went, "Well, I can take complete advantage of this," because it's established that's what he did with the Mother Elf. At the end of the Maverick War, he saw the Cyber Elves and he saw the Mother Elf, how powerful it was, and realized, if this was twisted to my side,
because
he feels like he's the smartest man in all the Mega Man franchise.
because here's the thing. At the end of the Maverick Wars, it was clearly stated, I do remember this, it was X and the Mother Elf that ended the Maverick Wars.
Mm-hmm.
And so you would have to think that the Mother Elf and X had to work together. And so they probably, knowing how X should be, made friends with the Mother Elf. So you kind of understand why X wasn't in the first position to want to destroy the Mother Elf, even as the Dark Elf. I can understand that.
Yeah.
I can understand X not wanting to kill a human. That would be a disaster. Well,
I can understand him not wanting to destroy Omega completely because that's Zero's body. Maybe we can get that back.
but why on God's green earth did they put Wheel in an immortal body that heals itself?
Why did they lock them up? Okay, if you wanted to torture Wheel this way, that's twisted, fucked up. I don't agree with it, but I can see it. But why the fuck would you lock the two of them up together?
And then send them up to space by themselves.
It's not like space debris hasn't been a problem several times in the Mega Man franchise.
But I'm just saying, like, life sentences means that they're going to be there for as long as they live. If they never die, it's not a life sentence. It's just them waiting around for you to get bored.
Were they hoping Wheel would repent? Because does that look at the man of a guy who ever repents?
You know, he looks like typical Japanese anime villains from like a bunch of animes, really. Like, good work on this. This looks absolutely crazy insane.
He shares a voice actor in Japan with Dr. Eggman.
Oh, yes, because Eggman's really going to repent, too.
It feels like he shares a brain with Archie or IDW Eggman.
Sweet Jesus, that explains so much.
Yeah. But unlike Dr. Wily and unlike Sigma, Wheel wins most of his at times he's around. The only reason why he loses is because rather than just smash Ragnarok onto Earth, Zero is going to destroy the core of Ragnarok. So Wheel's like, no, I'll combine with the core. You can't destroy it. The core can fight back, and becomes this monstrosity. And you have to. It's the only time the Zero franchise or the Mega Man franchise, by rememoration, has a timed final boss. You have only a minute to 2 minutes to kill him, or game over.
Now, remember how I went back and I was going to talk about the two issues with the Mega Man X series? This is where the second part ties in. Zero has an accomplishable goal. Kill Wheel, and this ends, pretty much. It doesn't solve
Zero,
everything,
in fact,
but it solves the major issue.
Zero, in fact, gives off a fucking badass speech before this fight. It lives rent-free in my head.
I don't remember the exact thing, but I know it was an awesome-ass speech.
Wheelbase says, "You can't kill me. I'm human." And Zero's just like, "I won't hesitate. If an enemy appears before me, I will destroy it. I made a promise to a friend." Who that friend is that X? Is that CL? Who knows? But Zero basically says to his face, "I don't care if you're human. You're the enemy. You're going down."
Now, before we get to the next scene, the problem I have is that in Mega Man X, we know that Sigma has bonded with the virus, and that as of X8, they still didn't have a permanent cure for that one. And at the end of X8, something else happened. So
they said because there's nothing for Sigma to infect on the moon, he can't leave the moon, so he fades away.
And then Luminous turns crazy, and it all ends there.
Yeah.
But at the time that this was being made, there was generally no talk about a way to stop the virus, which was the major problem, because no matter what X did, Sigma was just going to come back, and there was no way to actually end the wars.
Yeah, because even if Sigma did go away, Zero was still leaking the virus too.
So in essence, X had no way to actually win. Like, there was no Deus Ex Machina at the time. There was no, I can just beat this guy and peace reigns. Zero, in this one, despite what will happen to occur at the exact end, had a clear target, this man right here that he had to kill, and that would solve a lot of issues. And we also had Seal, who was solving a lot of issues, not relying on the Maverick Hunters to kill this, and then we'll do it again next Tuesday. Like, as much fun as I had with the X series, even the Mega Man series, it was the same issue with a lot of comics. It's rich to repeat so much, and there was just not enough innovative to keep it going, unfortunately. If they make it X9, they really got to try something. And they could have with Luminous or Lumino, whatever the hell his name was, taking over. They could have done Lumine, thank you.
Yeah.
They could have done something more interesting, but unfortunately, it never panned out because X9, as far as I know, was not the hit they were hoping for.
Mega Man 11 was the hit they were hoping for. It was one of the best-selling games of its generation.
Yeah.
They have no excuse to not make another Mega Man game.
Stupidity is one hell of one, but it's not still not a good one.
I said a good excuse. Oh no, I said no excuses. Yeah, stupidity is an excuse. It's not a good excuse.
But
Regardless, one of the reasons why this works so well is this is the end.
mm-hmm.
This is the final shot of 04. Because while you destroy the core of Ragnarok, you destroy the core of Ragnarok. It's an
Mm-hmm.
explosive big enough to destroy the falling space weapon, so it cannot destroy Earth, or even just damage Area Zero enough that it becomes uninhabitable. There's still wreckage, and the most prominent piece of wreckage is Zero's helmet. Now, there has been a hot debate of, if you look at the glow on the right, you see a thing standing up in the shadow. People think, oh, that's Zero. He got away. He's walking away. I just think that's a rock.
Eh.
Not a.
It could also be Seal fighting the wreckage, is what I always thought it was.
Yeah, it does not feel like Zero walked away. But even if that is Zero walking away, him leaving his helmet behind means he's left the war behind.
Mm-hmm.
It's up to CL now to introduce her energy source and end the conflict. And she does. There's no 05, and there's no hint they ever want to go back to the Zero Series. If they do go back, they might do a 2.5 or 3.5. There's no 05.
I would settle for a Mega Man X that ties into this.
Yes, I want that. That's what I want. I want a prologue prequel. But this is perfect. Like, this is. I actually cried during the end credits of this game because they picked a haunting song, and when I saw this image, I realized Zero's done the one thing X and Rock couldn't do before him. He got peace. And it's so fucking hilarious that the ultimate creation of Dr. Albert I Want to Conquer the World Wily succeed for Dr. Lightstream.
No, like
Because
I said,
after Zero, we get the ZX series, which is confirmed. Like I said, humans and replicas are so similar, you can't tell the difference. They live in peace and harmony. And that would not have happened if Zero did not make the sacrifice and kill what is essentially the embodiment of all human insanity.
mm-hmm. No, like I said, my thing there is like X really didn't have the chance to have the victory that he needed. Neo
I
Arcadia
will
was
give
kind
X
of
this. Yeah, X actually set up the victory. It could have been X might have been able to get this victory, but it's his setting things up that let this happen.
not
It
only
still was clearly not intentional, and a lot of people got hurt along the way. But through X and Zero's sacrifice, it's done.
mm-hmm.
For however long between Zero and ZX, which is implied to be at least 100 years, there's no Mavericks. There's still crime, there's still conflict, but there's no like world-ending destruction. When you get to the ZX series, it's a pretty peaceful world. There are theme parks here and there. There are people living in big cities. It looks really nice. A new conflict happens because basically when we get to the ZX series, it's basically the Ghost of Wheel.
Yeah.
That man, that man is nothing but hate. He's basically Zeromus, if you
I
know
really
Final
would like
Fantasy
them
IV.
ZX3 because that was winding up to be really cool.
Yeah, that's one I want. Like, don't give me a 05, give me a ZX3. But regardless, I think, like I said, this is my favorite part of the Mega Man franchise.
Mm-hmm.
It was 4 solid games. I have problems with each game, not just counting the absolute terrible leveling system 1 and 2 had. Granted, 2's leveling system was better than 1's, but meh. But
So,
the music is solid, the gameplay is solid, the story is
mm-hmm.
definitely the most coherent part. Like, sure, we complained about the beginning timeline, but once we get into the Zero franchise, the story makes sense. There's no real problems with it. It's a pretty much continuous story. It's the only time a Mega Man game goes, we have a story, we're gonna tell it, and it's not gonna just be action for the sake of action.
Mm-hmm. Which I think is the problem with
We,
the X series. It was action for the sake of action. Let's have a Maverick Uprising and go from there.
like the only other story before this that was actually a story was Legends.
Yes.
And Legends wasn't the greatest of stories. It was good, but I feel like Legends walked so the Zero franchise could tell a story by running.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had the Balance series, which told stories. They weren't that connected to each other, but they were still decent stories. But classic Mega Man and X have so much potential to still tell stories. Do they?
Well, after canceling Legends 3 and all of that, you just kind of
Oui. Oui.
you just lose hope with
Yep.
this. I mean, it's not like
Yep.
Capcom hasn't had any games that were successes. Monster Hunter's still going strong. Um,
My God, the money they make alone for Monster Hunter, they could make a dozen Mega Man games and not even notice it.
yeah, like Wild, like
I mean, look, the money they made alone from Street Fighter 6.
yeah.
But right now, it just feels like all we're getting from Mega Man is just, hey, here's a Monster Hunter costume. Hey, here's a Street Fighter costume based off Mega Man.
Like,
These are
hey,
nice.
remember this franchise that we have, but we're never going to release anything else for it.
I mean, I'll say this, at least it's in better shape than the poor Breath of Fire series is.
I don't still want another Breath of Fire 5.
Don't you mean 7?
No.
We should do the Breath of Fire series one day.
Uh,
That that starts off as wasted potential, becomes semi-perfect, and then dies in wasted potential, doesn't it?
I'm still dying on the inside from that last one.
Yeah.
I mean, I know there's a 6,
Yeah.
but that was short-lived and it was.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll get it. We'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
But I gotta go.
Speaking of moving on, we should really move on. I'm thinking about moving houses.
Oh, really? Got anywhere specific planned?
Oh, that one looks nice. I mean, I heard the guy there is about to be evicted from it.
Well, just remember that if you hear any loud noises or crashes or violent acts around the neighborhood, stay inside.
I mean, why the heck would I not? It's New York. Why would you
Oh,
go outside New York if
oh,
anything's
and
going on?
don't touch any black sludges.
No, I want Black Doom powers.
All right. Good night, folks.
You all take care and buy more Mega Man games so we get more Mega Man games.
Yes. Demand the Mega Man. We can have good Mega Man games. But
Take
good
care.
night.
That went well.